All right, so for me, coming from recovery, I like, there's a great saying in recovery, to me, very profound, which is self can't get out of self. And statements such as this, I'll run a few of them by you, are basically sort of like shoes at a shoe store. If you wear them and they fit, just keep wearing them. So this is what happened to me. I had an inkling of something, I didn't know what, and I went to the first satsang I ever did. I didn't even hear the lady, she was very slow-spoken, East European. It didn't matter, it was just the space. There was like an aha there, an unspoken yes. And then the mind got introduced to certain writings, and then when I read them, like you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha, that was just mind-boggling to me, because it explained most of my life, you know, in what you would call spirituality. I was captured by that statement like a giant net completely over me, that all that I had been doing seemingly was the Buddha was trying to use the Buddha to find the Buddha. And then this great master Huang Po doesn't let you up, so he says, well, you can't use mind, big M mind, to seek mind. You can't use light to seek light. Now, why would he say that to you if you weren't light, Buddha, or mind, yeah? If you were truly Steve, he would never say that. He would say, Steve, use whatever you can to seek the Buddha. Surrender your whole life so that you can find the Buddha. Or, you know, do all the penance that you can possibly do. Go walk around 800 statues 108 times so that you get purified enough to finally find the light, or this and that. They weren't sadists, you know, because when we're hearing it, we hear it as if it's talking, it's being presented to Steve, but really it's being presented to what you are, mind, or Buddha, or light, yeah? The message isn't coming to us. That's not the point. See, if the message gets claimed by you, it gets neutered completely. Like that, like instantaneously. As soon as you catch it, you've made it something. Just like they say in physics now, or neuroscience, you know, the observation the observed is distorted by the observation, yeah? So here you are, supposedly as Paul or something, and then you hear the message, yeah, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha, but Paul frames it. So Paul catches the message and tries to fit it into Paul's frame, which is, I can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha, not realizing that Paul's the Buddha, yeah? It's sort of like, all right, I gotta put down anything I ever thought was the Buddha, I can't use that. And now I just gotta find other mechanisms to seek the Buddha, because they just told me I can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. I don't think I have been, but I'm just making sure. Maybe they give me a list of all the things that are really the Buddha that I've been using to seek the Buddha. I need some help, you know? So the message wasn't to Steve, yeah? Huang Po, whoever it was, who knows what he was seeing, but I would expect that he was seeing Steve as, and it probably wasn't named Steve in ancient China, but Steve as the Buddha, yeah? And he was talking not to Steve, even though Steve thought he was hearing it, he was talking to the Buddha, and he was telling the Buddha, Buddha, you can't use yourself to find yourself. Now, I don't think the Buddha would have to read 800 commentaries about that statement. It's not something to comment on, it's something to receive and let the chips fall where they may. Because if the Buddha hears it, it goes, what? Like a dog, you know, when he hears something, does the what? Wait a minute. And he gets it, or it gets it instantaneously. It doesn't take any time for the Buddha to hear the message, you can't use yourself to find yourself. It's very clear. As soon as something is corrected. And what happens is when the Buddha hears that statement, it gets a hit that it has been hearing it as Steve for quite a while. Yeah? So it maybe I've heard this message 50 times, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. But the last 49 times, Steve claimed to be what was hearing it, as AKA the Buddha, but the Buddha had seemingly forgot itself by being identified as Steve, and Steve hearing the message neutered the message. It never gets to the Buddha, yeah? So we hope, that's why we share a lot, because we're throwing it constantly over everyone's head, and and you're trying to reach it, or you go, some people bring notebooks here, they're trying to catch it. That has nothing to do with it. We're not throwing it at you. We're throwing it at Buddha, because if Buddha catches it and goes, hey, I may not be that, basically that's that. Yeah. Now the Buddha has got a little sniff of the real dilemma, which is only seemingly so, it's only appearing to be so to the Buddha. The Buddha could never forget that it's the Buddha. But it can seemingly forget that it's the Buddha as Steve. See? So it becomes, in a sense, it acts as if it's identified as Steve, and that allows the impossibility for Buddha to forget itself. So it now, as Steve, forgets the Buddha. And one of the greatest ways it forgets that it's the Buddha is by seeking or searching for the Buddha as Steve. Because all the while Steve is searching for the Buddha, it's the Buddha. And these are why these statements are like warnings. If they had like spiritual cigarettes back then, this would be like the warning on the package before you smoked it, yeah? It would say, hey, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can't use light to seek light, and you can't use mind to seek mind. It's as clear as day. It's one of the most clear statements of all freaking time, and it outlasts time, yeah? And it will negate so much of the brush that all the mental forest fires depend on. Yeah, all of that brush will be just gone, because you will, if the shoe fits, you will wear it, and more will be revealed. Stuff will download, and you'll get like incredible amount of compliance or agreement. You'll see that that has been what you've been doing all of this time. All of your seeking was based or predicated on a false starting point, you. Yeah? When the seeking is not to find what you are, is to see what you're not. Yeah? By seeing what you're not, bammo, it's a weird way, it's like a bank shot, yeah? By seeing what you're not, you get a sense of what you are, but you're never gonna get a sense of what you are from what you're not. But seeing what you're not, you get a sense of what you are. It's the same dynamic, but instead of starting here at what you're not and trying to find this, what you are, you question what you're not from what you are. That works, yeah? And you'll know it works because it will work. And here is this little action figure in time and space. After years, you'll realize you've been traveling lighter for quite a while, and you'll get, that's what all I ever wanted. This does not want to meditate 14 hours a day. It doesn't. Your ass does not want to sit on a cushion 14 hours a day. It doesn't now, it's never going to. You're not, oh, I just love, no, it doesn't. Your two cheeks hate it. And one sometimes will hate it more than the other, therefore you're trying to get these little things up. I mean, you're going against a huge current of bodyhood to try to have this come along on your spiritual journey. Because the only thing, if you look at the word, see, first of all, the language is insane. Because look what we've done to what we call our own nature. We've made it a spiritual journey. What takes a journey? A spirit or a body? So the whole spirituality is defined as a body. You're on a spiritual journey. You're going to go into valleys and high points. What goes into not the spirit's everywhere. A body can go down to the depths and then get up to the top. Yes? You have to swim to the other shore. What the fuck, swimming to another shore is a body? Yeah, the whole spirituality is framed as a body on this incredible Homeric little odyssey. It's all based on a false premise. Like in recovery, we say, hey, your daily reprieve from active alcoholism is contingent on the maintenance of your spiritual condition. That's sort of the requirement, all right? It says, hey, everything's going good, but you better realize that your relief from alcoholism a day at a time is predicated on the maintenance of your spiritual condition. Okay. And then a lot of people will give you a lot of suggestions on how to maintain a spiritual condition. Yeah, there's a lot of them in the big book. There's a lot you get from outside. But they're all predicated on that you're a condition already, which is a body condition. That's attempting to graft or, become a hybrid of body, spirit, or somehow try to get some spirit on you. Yeah? The problem is spirit is like water and oil. They don't mix. The spirit isn't going to root into the body. It falls. You got to be vigilant. You got to constantly keep applying it. Yeah, you can't just meditate once. You got to meditate every freaking day. And then you got to do more of it and more of it. But what if you are a spiritual condition? Wouldn't entertaining that be the highest form of maintenance? All right, maintenance based on study, maintenance based on understanding, maintenance based on doing, maintenance based on being. Which is the most dynamic? The study, the knowing, the understanding, or being it? Being it, obviously. Being it is so far beyond doing. Being doesn't break out in a sweat, being itself. It's not making any effort to be itself. When something that we take to be us as not is going to really have to work hard to have an experience of what we are. Yeah. And it's not going to ever stabilize. It's always going to be predicated on what you're doing, which is a bad bet. Yeah. But what happens if you see what you're not, and then suddenly you realize, quote unquote, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, in that realization, now you have another level of maintenance, which is you're now being it. And then you'll realize you're always being it, and you're never not being it, no matter what you think. Because the thinking comes after you. It doesn't come, the thinking does not make it so. You are what's so, prior to thought. So now you get rooted in being, and then the idea of a higher power becomes always available at all times, right where you are, with no requirement necessary to meet it, because you are it, other than the requirements you've made up. So any delay or any space between you and that which you are is made up by that which you're not, really. And that which you're not plays a lot of God about that which you are. It does. It tells you what you need to do to be yourself. Doing and having is never going to lead to being. Doing and having and not having is an expression of being. It is not a route to being. Yeah? You're not going to do and have yourself into a prior condition you already are. If you try to do and have yourself into it, you're going to make it seem like it's not so. So now your spiritual condition, which is what you are, will seem not to be so, and you'll seem more to be so. Even while you're pursuing it, the emphasis or the spotlight will never be on it, it will be on you, the you that you're not. It's all selfing, completely. What happens if the selfing believes it finds God? It becomes a knower of God. It's still the most dominant thing. It never becomes, the absence that it is doesn't get revealed. It's more there. Now it's a knower of God. And then it can feel like it can forget God. This used to really get me when I was a kid. I went to Catholic, school, and they'd harp on these three things. God is omnipresent. It's always there. Omniscient, all-knowing, and omnipresence everywhere. Omniscient and all-powerful, all right? And it used to really, I'd wonder, why am I not running into God if it's everywhere? I ran into a lot of people I didn't want to run into every day, but that, which is everywhere, I never rubbed any shoulders. Why? Because something that's always available at all times, we will miss it. Yeah? We are like the fish that are blind to the effects of the ocean. They may be going to dry seminars, bitching about how dry they are while they're drenched all day. That's what it's like. And the apparatus we're using, I was with a guru when I was younger, yeah, and I got run over by a car. Got run over twice one night. When I was in a hospital, and I had left this guru, or whatever, because they had presented him as the Lord of the Universe at the time, and I didn't like the Lord of the Universe, which made me feel really bad about myself. So I was really not having much fun in the spiritual world, because, man, what must they be like if I don't like the Lord of the Universe? It was very bad. So I had finally broken away from it. And then I got run over by a car twice. Some people thought it was because I left. I'm not a believer in that, but whatever. So what happened is I was laid up in a hospital bed, and I started going into like different world states. I think because I had been an opiate user and they were giving me medication, and it put me into weird states. And I would go, and I could fly, and I could travel, and I could fly through people. And each dream built on the dream before, so it was like a whole serial. And I flew and I saw this guru, and he was having a program with kids, because he had kids, and he was on a little higher die, and everyone was flipping out because I was flying around the room, going through people and everything, and I landed on the die, and I looked at him, and I said, what's this all about in a certain way? And he had a little laugh, and he says, you're too fucking complicated to get it. And I realized then, and it never left me, that this apparatus cannot embrace what is. It's built to embrace things. It's built to see things. It has a programming that it's not going to break out of. Its source code isn't about recognizing what's always available at all times. Its recognition is to see things appearing in space, but never see the space that things appear in. So it was like really crushing. I remember the feeling. I was so bummed out that I can't get it. And in fact, it was true. And it's like this thing we use with you've heard many of them, the heaven's door. Yeah, there's a heaven's door, and I've been wanting to go to heaven because I'm not liking earth that much. So I practiced a lot. I've done everything you're supposed to do. I have a pretty good resume. Gone a couple continents, meditated here, meditated there. So I go knock on the door, and the door opens up super fast, which is a little disconcerting. And then there's God there, and I go, God, can I come in? And he looks right at me and goes, Paul can't come in. So I walk away dejectedly, and I practice even more, and I get a bigger resume. And now I feel pretty confident. I've got the goods to get in there and knock on the, to go back. And then he's like right behind the door. It was very off-putting. God, and then I go, God, can I come in? And he goes, Paul can't come in. This time I go, fuck this, and I flip out, and I start fornicating and partying and everything, drinking, getting this, and I fall into the river, hit my head, and I get washed up on the shore near the door. And as I'm standing up, my head opens up, and I knock on the door, and again, God's right there, and I go, can I come in? And God's looking right at me and says, Paul can't come in. I walk right in. Yeah. Because he wasn't saying anything personally. He was just making a statement of fact. Paul, Jim, Mary, Bill, any separate, long-lasting, independent, separate entity cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. As soon as I saw that I wasn't Paul, I walked right in, which I could have done 20 years before. Yeah. That's the point. That's the message. See what you're not, and you'll find out what you are. Look for what you are, and you'll find out more of what you're not. That's what will happen. Yeah, you'll be more knowledgeable as what you're not. You'll maybe have a loving gaze as what you're not. You may have a lot of things as what you're not. But the bondage of self will be just blossoming in all its glory. And you can convince tons of other fucking insane inmates that you're outside the asylum, but you're still on this side of the door. You may be close to the door, but you're not out. None of us gets out as this. None. You're never transcending this place as this. No freaking way. I've tried my best. It's impossible. You cannot transcend an imaginary place. And I always say it, I would put my addiction and my devotion to drugs up with any spiritual devotee in the annals of spirituality. Hanuman, the little monkey guy, whatever, I was right there with him. I gave everything to cocaine. I loved it. I loved using needles. I loved everything. It was a religion to me. I went through hell many, many times. I was on 10-day cocaine retreats a lot before I went on a 10-day meditation retreat. Try a 10-day cocaine retreat. Fucking, there's not that many people in it. You're lucky if there's one other person with you. So I gave it a really, and I would say I did it perfectly. And you know what? You cannot transcend an imaginary place. This place isn't real to get out of. Yeah? And you're not real to get out of it. This is dreaming 101. If you have ever been introduced to the Course in Miracles, they speak about this place quite a lot as an act of dreaming that we're in right now. I totally agree with it in my experience. There's a dreaming of this dreaming. We forget that we're dreaming, which is impossible, but it can appear to be so to us. Yeah? You have to take us as reality for these things to really make sense. So you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming, but we forget that we're dreaming. That really caught my interest, and I was looking into how do I forget that I'm dreaming? Well, through being identified as the dreamt, obviously. Yeah. So now suddenly that which is dreaming takes itself to be the dreamt, and for it to really live as the dreamt, it has to seemingly forget that it's dreaming, or it would be you would have woken up a long time ago, literally. Yeah. So now suddenly that's the new condition I seem to be in. I'm the dreaming of the dream. I forgot that I'm dreaming the dream. And in this condition, I'm giving everything I'm dreaming, thoughts, feelings, people, actions, everything I'm dreaming, all the power to affect me as the dreamt. Yeah? Sounds like everyone's day. If you took everyone's day on this planet, that would be a very clear diagnosis of everyone's day. We're all dreaming the dream. Yeah, we're in the state of forgetting that we're dreaming, and now that which we're dreaming seems to have a huge effect on us as the dreamt. Yes? Yes, yes. And then what happens is, if you don't believe you're dreaming, look at, no dogs are conjuring up what's not happening. Dogs aren't sitting in their little dog bed right now worrying about, will they have a bone 4 weeks from now? They're probably not. Nor are they reflecting, 8 years ago when they were a puppy. Yeah? The only activity that seems to be able to pull what's not happening into what's happening is us. Yeah? As this. That's amazing to me. Because how can what's not happening seem to happen? It can only seem to happen if what's happening entertains it. Yeah? What's not happening? Next Wednesday can't project itself into this Wednesday, yeah? But we can entertain the belief in next Wednesday and allow it to have an effect now. That's an incredible act. No other seeming creature is doing that here, yeah? No other seeming creature is living in what's not happening as much as we are. But how is that? How could next week have an effect on us unless we're fucking reality? I believe we're the reality. And we have a statement in AA, the false evidence appearing real. How can that be so unless you're real? Unless you're the reality that it's appearing real to? How could false evidence ever appear real unless it appeared real to what's real? How else? Tell me. I'd like to hear another idea. I've never studied it. It's just what's downloaded, but it doesn't make sense. I can't see how we can get out of the picture. Yeah? If false evidence, the stuff going on in one's head, is appearing real, it has to be, it's not appearing real to the head. Yeah? The head is just a mechanism. The head is playing to an audience of one, or of none, really, us. Yeah? So the false evidence is appearing real to what's real. That's not just a random event, that's all day. We're dreaming. Yeah? Not as Paul. See, this is what happens. This is what happens. Let's say the dreamt hears that it's dreaming. Then it buys the book, The Secret, and then it's, or the Law of Attraction. Now it wants to start dreaming 80 Cadillacs or fucking, 12 babes from Thailand or something. It misses the whole freaking point. The message that you're the dreaming isn't meant for the fucking dreamt. It doesn't go anywhere. It's meant to that which is dreaming. Huang Po wasn't talking to us. He was talking to Buddha. Yeah. Where? Bill, Steve, Mary, Joe, everyone. Buddha, 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 Buddha. Yeah? But it was obvious, we've learned, if I talk to you about the Buddha, it goes nowhere. It goes to Buddhism, basically. Yeah? It will. Because you cannot see that you are the Buddha because you're looking at the idea from being Paul. Paul is the established reference. So now it hears about the Buddha, but can only make up the idea of Buddha based on its frame, which is its Paul. So Paul, that's why Buddhism has happened. Because the Buddha, as Paul can't recognize it's the Buddha, so it tries to gain some qualities by practicing Buddhism. In other words, it's trying to reclaim its own qualities through time and through fucking effort and thought, because this is what this does. This does things in time and effort and thought. We're so identified as this, we try to get back to what we are through this. Why not negate this, and maybe you'll find out you are what you're looking for. The seeker is the sought. Yeah. There's an open secret. There's a gateless gate. I mean, it's right underneath your freaking nose. And then see what happens. It won't reshuffle the deck. It'll bring a whole new deck of cards. Yeah. And then this, as a byproduct, will get the byproduct of traveling later. And it will realize, what more does it want? See, look at what the mental state does with the word enlightenment. When enlightenment itself means cessation of all suffering. What is the mental state using it for? To produce suffering, isn't it? In spiritual circles, it was the worst thing for people to hear about, is enlightenment. It's driven so many motherfuckers crazy. And awakening, really bad. See, enlightenment, you think it's done. But awakening, people think they wake up and then they lose it. They even have more of a freaking mental playground. Enlightenment is like, you're enlightened, you're basically enlightened. You don't unenlighten, but awakening can go back and forth. So people, I was awake and then I lost the awakeness. I did something to lose something. That's not what it is. You can't lose what you are. You can't gain what you are. You can lose what you're not. You can study what you're not. You can understand what you're not. Like a great Zen master from Japan, Dojin, said, he said a whole lot more, but the encapsulated was, to study Buddhism is to study the self. To study the self is to forget it. Why would you forget self after you've studied it? Because after you studied it, you'll entertain it's not you, and while realizing it's not you, you're going to forget it, because it's not going to be that interesting to you. Just like if all of your stories were finally revealed to be Stanley's, you'd lose interest in all those stories that you were interested in for 40 years. If you heard they were Stanley's, you'd lose interest in them in like 5 seconds. But as yours, you haven't lost interest in them for 40 years. What's the glue? It isn't the story, it's the identification. Yeah? See it. If you don't see it, you're going to be looking from its effects. If you think it's thoughts that are driving you crazy, you're missing it. It's my thoughts. It has nothing to do with the thoughts. It's what is injecting the thought with meaning, which is that's representing that phantom position of being the doer, the thinker, the feeler, the haver. Yes? That little assumption, that insinuation is giving meaning to things that it claims, that comes after it. So the thoughts are now held as my thoughts. Feelings are now held as my feelings. Actions, most definitely, are held as my actions, yes? This is how what comes after is used to imply what's before. The action occurs, and then the idea, the sense that you're the actor comes after. The feeling occurs, and then there's a claiming of the feeling, and then the feeler comes after. But when you believe the feeler, it's the one that says, I was having the feelings. You see? That's the heist. See it. This is exactly what it does. The activity. We had it in LA. It was incredible. It was a beautiful demonstration. So let's say use the word selfing. So there's selfing. And so selfing insinuates that you're a self, yeah? A self as a doer, a thinker, a haver, a loser, a time creature, whatever you want to do. Many, many things. So the selfing insinuates that you're a self. So you're listening to the selfing sort of in a naive way, and it's convincing mind that it's what it's implying, okay? So suddenly you buy the selfing, and then there's a feeling of being Paul, yeah? As soon as you have the feeling of being Paul, then Paul is seen to be the one that was selfing. You see it? It's unbelievable. The selfing happens, then there's the observation of the selfing, an ignorant observation, and the observation implies a self, and then the self goes, what? I was the one that's been selfing all day. No, you weren't. The selfing was the one that was insinuating there was a self. There was mind bought it, and then suddenly it leapfrogs back. It goes behind everything that it came after and goes, I'm the doer of every fucking action that happened in this body for 60-something years. I'm the thinker of every damn thought that's ever appeared. I'm the feeler of all the feelings since I was like 1 year old, I can remember. Yeah? That's insane. It's like a huge robbery. And then you get what? You get all that stuff attaches to stories, reams of stories, and now you're walking around with so many freaking stories that have been claimed, and they've been grown in all that shit that you had nothing really to do with. Man, it's mind-boggling to see. Does it help the action figure to see it? No, actually, no. The action figure is destined to be exactly where it is. Yeah? Sometimes it would opt out for ignorance better. Seriously, it'd probably be better if it could just love like Die Hard 1 to 12, But really, it could just, it's like painful sometimes because the action figure would really like to be something else, but as the action figure. It's such a stubborn source code. It wants to be there to experience its own absence. It doesn't want to be a body, but it wants to be a non-body as a body. Wants it. It's stubborn as hell. It wants to be there to get it. It really does. It knows, in a sense, it's the reason why nothing seems to be available, but it stubbornly holds on to the idea, but if I can only manage better, if I practice more enough, I'll be there. I'll break that warning of self can't get out of self. I'll break that. I will be the first Steve to find the Buddha. And it, there's an easier, softer way for sure. What would happen if you saw this wasn't you? On just a basic level. You know what happened with me? First of all, the urban renewal project that this represented was ceased completely. And all that budget that was like the defense budget, all that budget that was going into this got moved to other topics, like now and here. And so now and here, I never get gypped. I'm here all fucking day, every second of the day. Night and day, sleeping, dreaming, everything. I have no belief that I could ever be in a moment because I can't be out of a moment. I don't try to get into any moment. I'm way in every moment. I don't need intensives. Wednesday is intense enough. Fucking really. I'd love to go on a retreat that I didn't go to, but unfortunately you go on the retreat. That's the dilemma. I'm not looking for what can't be found, ever. So I have tons of success every day. I look for something like a pair of pants, I find a pair of pants. I have found a really good cup of coffee, a lot of good things. I'm not looking for the truth, that's freaking for sure. You know, definitely no way. I'm not looking for what I don't need to find. I am that. Yes, as Ramana said, to be still. Now people can hear that like an order or a command, but no, be still. That's what you are, yeah? Or you could say in time, you're still being. Even now, oh no, I was thinking terrible things, that's still being. You can't escape what you are. You know, you obviously realize that. I mean, most of us are incredible, very adept escape artists. Did we ever escape? No. Because you can't escape from an imaginary place. Yes? The dream object can't escape from the dream that it's the only place it appears in. There's not going to be a Paul in heaven. There's only a Paul in this dreaming. Remember, what always kills me is those movies where, like that one movie, Nicolas Cage is an angel and he decides just to have go horizontal with Meg Ryan. It's going to give his eternal bliss up for. I mean, that's the anthropomorphic arrogance of us. We think, oh yeah, celestial beings are going to take off their wings and eternal bliss to come here. I ever tell everyone I know, hey, have you known anybody and have they come back looking the same way? No. Everyone I've known who died, I've never seen again. This ain't the big freaking vacation spot. It's a dreaming. It's a one-cycle dreaming. So what the Course says is a beautiful thing. It says, hey, you and I are the dreaming of the dream. Let's put that down as a fact, all right? You and I are the dreaming of the dream. And what's going to happen is we're going to dream ourselves out of the dream. And as we do, the dream will get happier. It doesn't say eternal happiness. It means the dream's going to end. And the sign that it's going to end soon is that it gets happier. So you don't need to pack any bags, but departure is near. So the dream is getting happier, and then there'll be whoop, yeah. Yeah. And who's going to experience your death? Not you, only other people. If you're waiting for your head to tell you you're dead, the head died, the voice box went with the body. You're going to be hanging out in no man's land or the bardo. You're going to be waiting. What happened? You're dead. I want someone to tell me what happened. No. So, yeah. I find the message beautiful, really, because for me it became an unspoken yes, yeah, or it was, and then it's also, in time, it has become the last answer, which is a great freaking answer, yeah. It negated all need for any other answers in this topic, yeah. I haven't looked for a turbocharged way or extreme radical non-duality, nothing. It's just pure, I see non-duality as a statement of fact. No, I don't really waste any time trying to convince which doesn't see non-duality as a statement of fact and will never, quote unquote, see it. It's not, this limitation isn't open to that possibility. This is programmed to believe it has free will, to see things, yes? To believe in time and all like that. Why waste time in trying to convince the Toyota it's a chariot of the gods, you know? Just fucking drive it. You know, they'll get you around where you need to go. It doesn't want you to fly up to heaven. It's a Toyota. It's go better for both of us, really. This is the best thing that ever happened to the body, is for the mental hen to get up off it. Yeah? Once this body is just seen as a body, what flooded in for me is, and it grows in time, is acceptance. Yeah? And And what happens when you have acceptance, you realize how little you did have over the years, yeah? All the searching was just a drive for this fucking thing to get better. And it wasn't into the trips, it wasn't into all the journeys. You're like dragging it like a puppy that doesn't want to leave that one smell, yeah? All right, any questions? No, yes.
You say more about, you said the last answer. Can you be more specific? I mean,
Yes, the last answer in time is no answer. In other words, the solution to everything is timeless. And in the timelessness, there's no problem. So there is no need for a solution. I just used the word last answer in time as an expression in time. But it implies the what's before all need of answers and solutions and problems, yeah. There's an inherent state that doesn't change here, yeah. If you take anything out of the space, there's no lack of space. This is appearing in space. If you weighed this in space, it doesn't weigh fucking anything. Yeah, if you took this out, space wouldn't be lighter. Yeah, this is an appearance in space. It's appearing in space based on conditions, yeah, dreaming and all this. When those conditions change, everything disappears. Where does it go? Like they say in physics, energy can't be created nor destroyed, so nothing goes anywhere. It just gets reconfigured. You don't see it the same way. Yeah? So if the seeing wasn't looking through this kaleidoscopic lens event that we call seemingly a body, it wouldn't be seeing things. It sees things through a thing. Yeah? Goes through a thing, and then it sees a world of things. When this way, it doesn't see any. It's just seeing. All there is seeing. All there is awareness. Huge, unbelievably whatever. Have you ever had realizations? Realizations in the mind. You don't realize mind. Realizations in the mind is like dropping a stone in a huge, deep well. It takes so long to hit something. And the realization's like a mushroom cloud, and it reverberates and never hits anything. You get the sense of mind by the smallness of the realization, really. You know, it was, you think you saw something, but it was just like, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Seeing, looking here seems to stop when it hits a thing, but seeing doesn't. Seeing is just seeing. So therefore it goes, there's no time for it to stop or start. It's just on and on. That quality can be intimated here by a loss of interest in the central character of the story, Paul as a figure. Yeah? If that can be entertained as not you, and it catches on, if mind goes for it, it gets out of that conundrum, like in recovery, where it says, you've got to quit playing God, but let's say if that which is playing God hears that, and then that tries to quit playing God, isn't that playing God? And it would go on ad infinitum, yes? So that which is playing God tries to quit playing God, it could be construed as playing God, and go on and on and on. So it can never stop playing God through playing God. Yeah? That's the same statement, self can't get out of self. These are conundrums that are great release points, if you see them. Yeah? If you see them, a lot of the mechanism that drives us in time to look can get dismantled, or like a wrench thrown in. And when it stops, something is obvious. Yeah? When it stops, something continues. And what continues has never stopped, it never started. There's no entrance point, there's no exit point. There's no, it doesn't slow up and it doesn't speed up. It's just always available at all times. Yeah? So you intimate, things are intimated. Yeah? These downloads intimate information. And so you lose interest in that which thinks it has interest. So you're not trying to play God and try to stop playing God. You just lose interest in that, yeah? And then the interest is free, and then the interest will go somewhere else, not to this dead preoccupation. And maybe you'll see that it's been enriching your day for months, and you realize, geez, you know, I'm going along with that plan. The plan seems cool, yeah? So now the interest and attention, it's just like he was talking about faith. Faith to me is a force of mind. It's neutral in a sense. It's going to manifest by what vehicle you put in here. So you can see it in recovery. A lot of people who are suffering from what's not happening, it's all predicated on faith in the thoughts about next week. Thoughts couldn't produce what's not happening. It's the faith in the thoughts that does, yeah? So what would happen if that faith wasn't put to that chore? Maybe if that faith was allowed to go where it would like to go, maybe you would feel an ease and comfort right now in the circumstance and situation you're in. The same energy, just directed differently. Yeah? I had the same thing. When I started to drink, I had magnetic appeal to people in uniform. I realized over the years that I have a strong beacon, and when I'm under the influence, it's like a dog whistle that's going out to authorities. They would just fucking find me in the weirdest places. And I wanted to stop, but as long as it just... Well, then when I surrender or got involved in another way of life, that same energy is now being put to better use. And it's not attracting what it used to attract. Yeah, it's attracting other possibilities. It was the same force, the same power, but the way how it was being directed caused its manifestation here. And I couldn't take another year of its fucking manifesting under the influence of the self thing and the drugs and the alcohol. I had been parking in those three spaces of institution, jails, and death for a while. And it was going to probably get down to one, which was probably, I'd be lucky if it was death. It was probably going to be an institution or a jail for longer periods. Yeah. Something stepped in and put a stop to it, and now that same energy force is being directed where I've been able to stay. I'm sober for almost 30 years, and I visited jails, but I haven't been back to a jail as, one of the customers, which is an incredible improvement, and that's just one out of thousands of it, of just having what was directing the energy called Paul change. Yeah. So faith is behind everything here. This whole place, seeing this room is based on faith. Yeah. So faith is a force of mind. When people talk about, I don't have any faith, there's a faith in the thoughts that tell them they don't have any faith. Faith is always before what they're talking about not having. Yeah, so someone who doesn't feel like they have faith, that's huge faith. You see, it's the same thing, because we're it. That's why. Just like in science, they study everything, but they can't study what's studying, because they can't get behind what is, because they are what is. Yeah, we can't get behind what is to study it. It's impossible, because you'll be there. There's no way this is going to get before what we are and study it. There's no way. That which is before the camera is never going to get behind the camera. If you're seeing this, we're all before the camera. We're on that side. What's that back behind the camera is what we are. This is never going to get behind what we are. Just see you're not this, yeah? And you'll realize you're behind the camera as something appears to be in front of the camera. But for how long? Maybe 90 years, 80 years, it's nothing. What happens if you go dream at night, and let's say you have a dream that spans 5 centuries, and then the next night you have a dream that spans 6 minutes. Does it take any longer to wake up from the 5-century dream or the 5-minute dream? When you wake up, does it take 4 months and 3 days to wake up from a 5-century dream? No. You wake up, boom, like that. It doesn't matter how much fucking time. Time is a false measurement. It's only applicable here. When you go to sleep, it's not applicable anymore. So there you go. Did you shut it off yet? No? You better now. I'm done.